Okay, so we're going to look at chapter 1 today, which is arithmetic of whole numbers. So it's going to include adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and introducing us to the concept of order of operations. Now, what I think is nice about each one of these chapters, just format-wise, you'll kind of know if you're ready for this or what the content is going to be, because this starts on page 3 here for chapter 1, but always right before the chapter officially starts, they have this little preview or pre-test that you can take if you choose to. All right. So this always kind of gives you a good look at, what I'm going to be learning in this chapter, and maybe as for on a personal level, where am I at with this? Okay. So you'll kind of know, because like I said, so many people come in at all different levels. This will kind of give you a good look at, do I really need to spend a lot of time here, or is this something that I can maybe go right to the homework and start performing it and see if I'm on the right track, okay? So we're going to, in our review today, go through each one of the sections here in chapter 1, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Front here, so it's a little bit easier to see. Okay. So I'm going to turn and we're going to start in section 1-1 here. And again, I'm not going to go through each and every example. It's going to be more of an explanation, and then what we're going to do is we're going to work some problems and examples together. So this first section, 1-1, in chapter 1 on page 4, it talks about reading, writing, rounding, and adding whole numbers. Okay? And so, like I said, much of this you should already be pretty familiar with. In the Modumath videos that we watched last week, they talked about place value, the thousands, hundreds, tens, and one places here, and then looking at the decimals as well. Okay, so again, I'm going to kind of gloss over this, and we are going to look to start doing some examples here on page 15. Okay, so it talks about adding and subtracting. So here in section B on page 15, some pretty straightforward adding problems, doing 2 and up to 4 and 5 digit problems. So when we look here, some of the questions I know you're going to have on your homework are, do I have to write that all out? Okay, no. All right, so but I'm going to just do a couple examples. So in section B here, we'll look at problem number 1. It says add. Now they don't show the symbol, the plus symbol, but they're telling you want to add these two numbers together. Probably the most important thing with adding or subtracting and then multiplying and dividing as well, I'm going to do it longhand here, is to line up your columns, right? Making sure you're kind of keeping everything to, so that it's all nice and straight. So here I'm going to add, starting on the right-hand side, 7 plus 3 is 10. I'm going to put the 0 down, carry the 1, and I'm going to do 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 2 is 7. So my answer is going to be 70, okay? As you're doing your homework for things like this, I will accept just the 70 as your answer. That's perfectly fine, okay? Because I'm under the impression that we all have, gotten addition like this down at some point and are good at it. So then number 3, the same thing. So here you can go ahead. So 45 plus 35, 0, carry the 1, and it looks like I have, oopsie, 80, right? And again, if you would just do number 3 and put 80, I'm okay with that on problems this simplistic, okay? Now the other thing I encourage you to do, that even if you can do some of these in your head, practice using your calculators at times as well, because it'll kind of get you used to making sure that you're doing it correctly, okay? Because I can, in my head, I don't claim to be a whiz in my head. Some people are really good, and that's fine, but check them every so often just to be sure. Go ahead. Do you have a question? No. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, no problem. So any question about addition in this case? Okay, we feel comfortable with that. When we get down into the ones that are, more digits long, like we see here, we just want to make sure, again, that we're lining things up, okay, with the same places, and then going underneath, doing our carrying and taking our time adding, okay? The next section that we see here is section C. Okay, we can see addition not only vertically, but we can see it horizontally as well. What you're going to want to do when you see it written out horizontally like this is you're going to want to reorder these vertically. So I'm going to do this number 1 for section C here. You want to go 487 plus 29, lining up the spots, plus 526, and then you can go ahead and add, okay? But again, if you wanted to do these on your calculator and punch them in and get the answer, I'm okay with that too. I think that practice is good for you as well, all right? If you're using your calculator, my suggestion always is I can hit a wrong button really easily. Do them twice, just to be sure. You know, that double check is always a good idea. So if you add them up, you go, okay, I've got my number. Do it just one more time, just to be sure. So it's just good practice to just double check all the time. So any questions about the adding of digits here? I'm going to let you guys kind of guide the time we spend here. Everybody feel comfortable? Good. Now, what's nice as well in these sections is they have not only kind of the rote, you know, let's add these numbers, but then they go ahead and they give you some practical applications. And that's really the reason for the title of the book, Mathematics for the Trades. And so what they do is, and the problems I've picked from some of these sections specifically are going to be things that I would anticipate that you're going to see on a regular basis. So I like making sure that we get some of that practical application. So as we turn to page 16, what I'd like you to do, and maybe in the 9th edition, these should be all pretty similar, and hopefully you're able to follow along if it's not the exact page number, but we have number 4 here. And this example says, it's an application, it says, in calculating her weekly expenses, a contractor found that she had spent the following amounts. And then giving those amounts, it says, what was her total expense for the week? Okay, so this is an addition problem, right? She's got some expense in materials, in labor, in salaried help, and in overhead. Go ahead and add these together, whether it's on a calculator or by hand, and see what you get for the overall expenses. So in this case, this is number 4 on page 16. Oops. Did you do it longhand? Yeah. You know, too, don't be afraid. I had said last week if you weren't here, and that's okay. I know that the course specifies a certain calculator, right? All right. So you don't have to have it.
I have it.
Is it that one? And that's fine. If you went out and got it, that's okay. But everything that we do in here, you can also probably do on that calculator that you may have on your phone. Okay, or a different calculator that you have at home. So I don't dictate what type, and I'm never going to say press buttons in certain orders. I'm really going to let you kind of take that and make sure that you are running your calculator to get the same answers.
Are you okay with graphing calculators?
What was that?
Are you okay with graphing calculators?
Oh, you can use a graphing calculator if you want to. We won't be utilizing those functions in this class at all.
I think that's the calculator I still have left in high school.
Yeah, do that. Use that. Get your money's worth. Right? Those are expensive.
That's a $100 calculator.
It is. I know I had to buy one for my kids. I think, I'm going to double check. So 13.
I believe I still have it.
Yeah.
The graphing part is great.
Say that again. So how did we do on that one? If you're working on it, I've got 19,488 were her total expenses for the week.
That's what I got.
Yeah? Okay, good. So There you go. There's a real easy addition problem. We do addition all the time in our everyday lives, right? Yeah, good. Another one here, number 7, it says we have 8 individually powered machines in a small production shop. They use motors that have 420, well, I'm not going to read all the numbers here, watts each. And it has a couple different looks here. It says, what is the total wattage used when, first, the total shop is in operation, so all of the machines. What is the total wattage for part B here? It says the 3 largest motors are running. And C, when the 3 smallest motors are running. So here, out of that list, after we do A, we got to pick out the largest and then the smallest. Go ahead and do parts A, B, and C for number 7. And feel free to use your calculator here as well. Or if you do it longhand, that's great. It's good practice. Then double check your answer with a calculator to be sure you're on the right track. Say that again.
When I did all the adding longhand, I put them in order of biggest to smallest.
Oh, there you go. Good idea. Yep. And then you already had the, yep. Yep, that's smart. Yep.
And it's usually, in my opinion, it's usually the easier way to organize things when you put the 3 and then you put the 29 in the middle.
You're right. Yeah.
It's easier to visualize it.
Mm-hmm.
The three, and not 2.
Good. Good. So any questions on those 3? I got for part A, 3604 watts. No? Did I do it wrong? Oh, nuts. Of course you did. I did these all before. I better go like this. 30.
35, 47.
Okay. So 3607 is actually our number? That would make sense. 15. Yep, that's definitely a 7 there.
I got 7.
Did you get 1997 for the second one? Okay. All right. And 880?
No.
No. Nuts. Is it really? Oh my gosh. I did
You
these.
missed the 410 or 310. What was it?
310, 280,
Oh, by the way.
260.
Yeah, your paper's covering the smallest one.
Oh. All right, let me try this again. So 310, 310,
We have bonus points.
260. You do. You get an A for the day. How about that? Doesn't that sound good?
I still don't know where they stay when I'm on A.
All right, now am I okay? I hope so. It looks good to you. Sorry. Okay. Hopefully I'm back on track. All right, let's do number 10, and I'm gonna make sure I triple check this one. So number 10, it says a machinist needs the following lengths of a 1-inch diameter rod, and it has them here. How long a rod is required to supply all 5 pieces, and ignore any cutting waste that they might have here, or that you might normally include. So go ahead and do number 10. It's obviously adding up those numbers. Let's see how good or bad I am now. So 8 inches. 14. Thought I was doing myself a favor by doing these ahead of time, but evidently I didn't double check my work when I was supposed to. So 97 inches total. I did get that twice, so should be good. All right. Everybody feel comfortable with adding? Good. Good. So we will move on to the next section then. The next section is, you probably can imagine, is going to be subtracting, right?
Sure.
All right, so section 1-2 talks about subtracting whole numbers. They give some really good examples, so don't, feel free to go through that if you need that reinforcement, but I'm going to kind of gloss again over this section, and we're going to peek at page 25, okay? At the bottom of page 25 it's called exercises 1-2. This is a section on, some subtraction of whole numbers. And down at section B here, number 1, they have the subtraction of the whole numbers. Again, lining up your columns is the most important thing in any of these problems, whether it's adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, okay? So here, for number 1 in section B there, so this is page 25, number 1, it's 40 minus 27. So we would have 40 minus 27. Now this is where we have to kind of recall that borrowing business, right, that we had to learn about back when we were in grade school and we were practicing this. So here you'll notice we always start on the right-hand column, and I'm going to take 0 minus 7. Well, we can't take the 0 minus 7, we have to borrow, right? So we go like this, we cross out, we make the 4 a 3, and we put a 1 in front of the 0. So now it becomes 10 minus 7, right? Don't forget to do that crossing out and subtracting on the digit previous. So we're going to do 10 minus 7 is 3, and we're going to do 3 minus 2 is 1. So the answer here is 13, okay? Feel free to also do these on your calculator. So if you want to get that practice a little bit longhand, but if you want to do problems like this on your calculator, go ahead and do it. It's good kind of, reintroducing ourselves. It's been a while doing it on those. So I will leave that up to you. For the answers for problems like this in your homework, you can leave just the final answer. That's fine. Whether you're doing it in your head, whether you're doing it longhand, or if you're doing it on your calculator. I don't need to see the work for these. Okay? Let's do another one. Let's do number 4. Okay, number 4 is 36 minus 17. Here again, it looks like we're going to have to do a little borrowing because we can't do 6 minus 7. It's going to give us something less than 1. So we're going to borrow from the digit ahead of it. So that's going to go to a 2, and this is going to be a 1. So a 16 minus 7 will be 9. 2 minus 1 is 1. So the answer here is 19. Okay? So as we turn the page then, kind of just gives us bigger numbers to work with. So it's probably not bad practice. Go ahead and independently, we'll do number 25, okay? So number 25 is 13,042 minus 524. So here, the 2, we would have a 12. We would borrow from the digit ahead of it. So we would take the 4 and make it a 3. So 12 minus 4 is 8. 3 minus 2 is 1. Oh, now we got another 0 minus 5. We got to borrow again. So this goes to 10, and this goes to a 2. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 2, there's nothing below it, so there's a 0 there, so that just comes down 2 and the 1. So 12,518 looks like it would be the value. You don't have much confidence anymore this morning. so do be double checking as I go. Okay, so let's do a practical problem. Section C here. Looks like it says, for number 3, we'll look at this one. It says a storage rack at the Tiger Tool Company contains 3,540 feet of 1-inch stock. On a certain job, 1,782 feet is going to be used. How much is left over? So there's a subtraction problem, right? So we start with, for number 3 here, the 3,540 feet, okay? And we're going to subtract off 1,782 feet, okay, to find out what's left over. So here, starting in the right column, we have a 0 minus 2. We're going to need to borrow, so that's going to go to a 10 and a 3 on the one before. So 10 minus 2 is 8. To borrow again, right, we've got a 3 minus 8. We can't do that. 3 is smaller, so we're going to have to do the borrow from the one before, so the 5 becomes a 4 and the 3 becomes a 13 with that borrowing. So 13 minus 8 is 5. Do it again. 4 minus 7, smaller again. It needs to become 14, so we borrow. We put the 2 to the 3. So 14 minus 7 is 7, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So you should end up with 1,758 feet are what's left. What was that?
I was like looking at my problem. I crossed the 5 off and wrote it borrowed up on top.
Oh, okay.
And the 5 turned into an 8.
Be careful. Yep, be careful. Yes.
On the answers, do you want us to write out feet of measurement like that as an FT or I inches? I use like a dash mark or 3.
Oh, yeah.
So what's acceptable?
So the question is, can I use, instead of writing out feet or inches, can I use like those little hashtags, right? Where it's where you would just use the symbol like this. Perfectly fine. And I only am looking for units in your final answer. So when we're doing these application problems, in those, when you write out your answer, make sure you include units that would be appropriate. And whether you use feet, FT, or the symbol for feet or inches, I'm okay with that as long as you label those units. In the problems above where it's just adding and subtracting digits, there's no units there, so you wouldn't include it there. But in these practical problems, in your final answer, do include the units that we're getting, okay?
Or if it's not units.
If it's not units, then just leave them off, yeah.
What is like, how many pieces of something?
Oh, then you would put pieces, yeah. So if it's asking, yeah, how many pieces are left over, the units would be 20 pieces then, yeah, or units. Yeah, good questions. The next one that I want to do down here, and we're not going to do each and every one because it seems like you guys are pretty comfortable, but I do like number 8. Okay, this is something that you're going to be doing on a regular basis, is figuring out missing dimensions here or what's left over. So you'll notice here it says determine the missing dimension L in the following drawings of the figures. So there's figure A, B, C, and D. So go ahead, dimension L in each one of these is something you have to derive from the given dimensions that are there, okay? So I'll kind of do it here, and then you can follow along with me if you would like, or work ahead. I'm just going to try to make this all work on the same screen here. So number 8, and I'll do A. So here we'll notice that we have an overall length of 17, and L is in the middle here, but we were going to subtract from 17 5 and again 3, okay? So we would take 17 minus 5 minus 3 is going to be equal to our L, right? So you'll notice this would basically, if we combine 5 and 3, we're going to subtract those off. It's going to be subtracting 8, right? So 17 minus 8 is going to be 9. So 9 inches is what L is equal to. Okay. What was that?
What's just one of those annoying problems that you really can't care and you just kind of have to know the answer and figure it out when you're doing it longhand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got to kind of know what you're starting with. So when you're looking on these problems, you want to see, do I have an overall dimension to start off with and then subtract off as needed? Yeah. B. Let's look at B here. B in this case, see in A, they gave us an overall straight. We don't have that, do we? What we need to do is we kind of have to add first and then subtract. So here, if we start on the left-hand side of this part, we have 1 inch to the center of the first hole, then 4 inches between, and then 2 inches to the end. So our overall length ends up being 1 inch plus, I'll go in order, 4 inches plus 2 inches, right? So this is going to be our overall length as we chain these 3 dimensions together. So it looks like it's going to be 5, 6, 7 inches is our overall length, but we're not done yet. We need to find L, okay? So if I know that the overall length is 7 inches and I know that there's 3 here, then the L is going to be what's left over. So I take that 7 inches and I subtract off the 3 inches. So my 4 inches is what's left over, and that's what L is going to be, right? So it's kind of a combination here in some cases. But this is something that is very typical of things that you're going to have to do later on. Okay? C. Part C. Here we are given an overall dimension in this case. So part C, we're going to start with that 14 inches. And we need to find L over here, so we're going to subtract off 2 and subtract off 8. So minus 2 inches, minus 8 inches. You can see already that's going to be a subtraction of 10, right? So 14 minus 10 is 4, whoopsie, negative. It's just going to be 4 inches left over is going to be equal to L in part C there.